She texted, "I can't accept your emotional baggage anymore. We're done." After I opened up about my anxiety, I replied, "Thank you for showing me who you really are." Then I blocked her. Her apology letter 6 months later when she needed my support. I, 31 male, dated my ex-girlfriend, 28, for 2 years. We met through mutual friends at a barbecue, hit it off immediately, and things moved pretty fast. Within 6 months, we were spending almost every night together. Within a year, we were talking about moving in together, looking at apartments online, making spreadsheets about what we could afford. I genuinely thought she was it. The person I'd marry, have kids with, build a whole life with. Here's what you need to know about me. I have generalized anxiety disorder. Been dealing with it since my early 20s, got properly diagnosed at 24 after a particularly bad period, and I've been in therapy on and off since then. I take medication that helps a lot. It's managed. I'm functional. I hold down a solid job as a project manager at a construction company. Been there 5 years, good salary, decent benefits. I have friends, hobbies, a full life. But anxiety is part of who I am, and I've learned to live with it rather than fight it constantly. For most of our relationship, I didn't really talk about it with her in detail. Not because I was hiding it. She knew I took medication every morning. She knew I had a therapist I saw every other week. But because it wasn't a big deal in our daily life, I had my coping mechanisms dialed in. When I felt overwhelmed, I'd go for a run or call my therapist or just take some space to recharge. She never really saw the hard parts because I managed them before they spilled over onto her. In retrospect, maybe that gave her a false impression of what dating someone with anxiety actually means. About 8 months ago, I went through a genuinely rough patch. Work was absolutely insane. We had 3 major construction projects going sideways simultaneously because of supply chain issues and contractor problems. My boss was breathing down my neck about deadlines I couldn't control. I was working 60-hour weeks minimum, sometimes more. On top of that, my dad had a health scare. He went to the doctor for what he thought was heartburn, and they found something on a scan. For about 2 weeks, we didn't know if it was serious or not. Turned out to be nothing. Benign, easily treated. But for those 2 weeks, I was convinced I was about to lose my father. The anxiety ramped up in a way it hadn't in years. I was having trouble sleeping, waking up at 3 a.m. with racing thoughts. My appetite was shot. I was just struggling in a way I hadn't struggled in a long time. I thought I could talk to my girlfriend about it. That's what partners are for, right? Supporting each other through hard times. One night, after she asked me why I'd been so distant lately, I decided to open up. I told her about the work stress, the situation with my dad, how my anxiety had been spiking harder than usual. I told her I was having intrusive thoughts about worst-case scenarios and that I'd already scheduled extra sessions with my therapist to work through it. I wasn't asking her to fix anything. I wasn't expecting her to be my therapist. I just wanted her to understand what was going on with me so she didn't think my distance was about her. She listened, nodded, said, "That sounds really hard, babe." Seemed supportive in the moment. Hugged me, said she was glad I told her, said we'd get through it together. I went to sleep that night feeling closer to her than I had in weeks. The next morning, I woke up alone in bed. She'd already left, which was unusual since she usually waited for me to get up so we could have coffee together. I checked my phone and found a text that I still have screenshotted because I genuinely could not believe it was real. It said, "I've been thinking about this all night and I can't sleep. I've realized I can't accept your emotional baggage anymore. It's too much for me to deal with. We're done. I need you to respect my decision and please don't contact me." I read it 3 times. 4 times. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed in my boxers, just staring at my phone, trying to process what was happening. After 2 years together, after everything we'd shared, after all the times I'd supported her through her own problems, she ended things over text because I told her I was stressed and anxious. Not because I'd done something wrong, not because I'd treated her badly, because I was honest about struggling. I typed out about 15 different responses. Long ones explaining how unfair this was, short ones just asking why, angry ones, sad ones, deleted all of them. My hands were shaking and I could feel my heart racing, and I thought, no, I'm not going to beg someone to love me despite my mental health. I'm not going to apologize for being honest. Finally, I just sent, "Thank you for showing me who you really are." Then I blocked her number, blocked her on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. And I sat there in my apartment for about an hour feeling absolutely hollow. The next few weeks were hard, not gonna lie about that. I leaned on my therapist heavily, talked to my closest friends, and worked through it piece by piece. The breakup itself hurt, but what hurt more was realizing I'd spent 2 years with someone who saw my mental health as baggage she could just refuse to accept. Someone who couldn't handle even a single conversation about me struggling. Someone who'd rather bail than be present for anything difficult. But I got through it, adjusted my medication slightly with my doctor, put in extra work in therapy, slowly started feeling like myself again. I even moved to a new apartment 3 months later, partly for a fresh start, and partly because my old place had too many memories. That was 6 months ago. Last week, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten, 4 pages, in a cream-colored envelope with her return address in the corner. I have no idea how she even got my new address since I moved after we broke up, and we have no mutual contacts who would have given it to her. Inside was a long, rambling letter. The gist of it was this: she was so sorry for how she ended things. She'd been going through her own stuff at the time and didn't handle it well. She missed me. She thought about me constantly. She realized she'd made a huge mistake by letting me go. She wanted to meet for coffee and talk things through and see if we could find our way back to each other. And then, buried on page 3 like an afterthought, the real reason for the letter emerged. Her lease was ending next month. She'd been laid off from her job about 8 weeks ago, and she was in a really difficult situation financially. She mentioned that she remembered how I'd always been so good with money and planning, and how I'd helped her set up a budget when we were together. She asked if there was any way I could help her get back on her feet while she figured things out. So basically, she dumped me for having anxiety, went completely no contact for 6 months, and then crawled back the moment she needed money. I sat with that letter for a long time. Part of me wanted to laugh at the audacity. Part of me wanted to write back just to tell her exactly what I thought of her. But mostly I just felt tired. Tired of her. Tired of the whole thing. I haven't responded. Don't plan to. But her letter set off a chain of events I wasn't expecting, and that's what I need to share. Update 1, 1 week later. So I didn't respond to the letter, threw it in my desk drawer, and tried to move on with my life. I figured she'd take the silence as the answer it obviously was. But apparently, silence wasn't acceptable to my ex. 3 days after the letter arrived, she showed up at my apartment, just appeared at my door on a Saturday afternoon, like that was a normal thing to do. I have a video doorbell, one of those Ring ones, so I saw her standing in the hallway before I even considered opening it. She rang the bell, waited, rang it again, then started knocking. I watched on my phone from inside my apartment, genuinely stunned that she'd somehow tracked down my new address and just showed up unannounced, like she was entitled to my time. She stood there for about 15 minutes, knocked maybe 20 times. I could hear her saying, "I know you're home, please just talk to me," through the door. Eventually, she gave up and left a note under my door that said, "I know you're probably still mad, but can we please just talk? I'm parked outside, I'll wait. Come down when you're ready." I didn't go down. I made myself lunch and watched TV and pretended she didn't exist. After about an hour and a half, she finally drove away. That night, she emailed me. She must have remembered my personal email from when we were together, because I definitely didn't give it to her recently. This message had a different tone than the handwritten letter, less apologetic, more accusatory. She said I was being incredibly cruel by ignoring her, that she'd apologized sincerely, and I was punishing her for a mistake she made 6 months ago. She said my behavior was proving that I hadn't actually worked on myself at all in therapy, because a truly healthy person would be able to have a simple conversation. She said she'd expected better from me. The manipulation was honestly impressive. She was trying to use my mental health, the thing she dumped me for discussing, to guilt me into responding. I didn't respond to that either. Kept the email, saved it in a folder, but didn't give her the satisfaction. Then she pulled out the next weapon: mutual friends. The couple who'd introduced us, friends I'd known for about 6 years before I ever met my ex, reached out within the same week. The wife texted me first, saying my ex had called her sobbing, saying I was ghosting her and she didn't understand why I was being so cold. The wife asked if I would at least hear her out because my ex was really going through it right now and needs support. I thought about how to respond for a while. Then I sent her the screenshot of the breakup text, the one where my ex called my mental health emotional baggage she couldn't accept. I said, this is how she ended things with me after I trusted her enough to tell her I was struggling. I'm not obligated to help someone who treated me like that. I hope you understand. The wife went quiet after that. Didn't respond for several hours. Later that evening, her husband texted me separately saying he had no idea how things had actually ended between us and that he completely understood why I wasn't interested in reconnecting. He apologized for his wife reaching out without knowing the full story. I told him no hard feelings, these things happen. But my ex wasn't done escalating. A few days later, I got a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. Turned out to be her mother. Her actual mother called me to advocate for her daughter. The voicemail was about 2.5 minutes long and genuinely unhinged. She said her daughter had made a mistake, but that everyone makes mistakes, and I needed to be the bigger person here. She said her daughter was struggling badly, and that as someone who claims to understand mental health struggles personally, I should have some compassion for what she's going through. She said I was being petty and vindictive by refusing to even have a conversation. She ended with, "Please call me back so we can discuss this like adults. I know you're better than this." The irony of using my mental health, the very thing her daughter dumped me for having, as the reason I should help her daughter was not lost on me. I didn't call back. What I did do was finally respond to my ex. One email, short and direct. I wrote, "I received your letter, your emails, and your mother's voicemail. I'm not interested in reconnecting, meeting for coffee, or providing financial assistance. Please stop contacting me, and please stop sending others to contact me on your behalf. I wish you well, but I've moved on, and I need you to do the same." I figured that would be the end of it. Clear, polite, firm. It was not the end of it. Update 2 weeks later. So my polite, clear request to stop contacting me was apparently interpreted as an invitation to escalate further. Within 48 hours of my email, my ex sent me a response that was genuinely unhinged. I'm summarizing because it was very long, but the highlights included: accusing me of being emotionally abusive during our entire relationship. I was not. Claiming that I had manipulated her into dating me by hiding my mental health issues until she was too invested to leave. I didn't hide anything. She knew about my meds and therapy from month 2. Saying that the 2 years she spent with me were wasted years she could never get back. And demanding, not asking, demanding that I give her $3,000 to help cover her expenses until she found a new job. The exact phrase she used was, "The least you can do is help me financially after everything you put me through." Everything I put her through. By having anxiety that she knew about and then mentioning it once. I screenshotted that email and saved it with all the others, but I didn't respond. At this point, I was starting to get genuinely concerned about the escalation pattern. So I talked to a buddy of mine who works as a lawyer. He said, I probably didn't have grounds for a restraining order yet, since she hadn't made explicit threats, but he recommended documenting every single contact carefully and keeping everything organized in case things continued to escalate. 3 days later, she showed up at my job. I work at a construction company. Our main office is in a commercial building. Nothing fancy but professional. She walked into the lobby on a Wednesday afternoon, told the receptionist she was there to see me about a personal matter, and sat down in the waiting area like she had an appointment. The receptionist, who had no idea who this woman was, called my extension to let me know I had a visitor. The second she said, "There's a woman here to see you, says it's personal." I knew exactly who it was. I told the receptionist to tell my ex that I wasn't available and that she needed to leave the building. According to the receptionist, things went downhill fast after that. My ex refused to leave. She started saying loudly that I was avoiding her and that she just needed 5 minutes and that this is really important. When the receptionist told her she needed to leave or security would be called, my ex apparently started crying right there in the lobby and said I'd ruined her life and that she had nowhere else to turn. Security did get called. They escorted her out. I watched from a window as she walked to her car, still crying, and sat there for about 10 minutes before driving away. My boss, who had heard the commotion from his office, pulled me aside afterward to ask what was going on. I gave him the abbreviated version. Ex-girlfriend from a relationship that ended 6 months ago. She'd been contacting me persistently. Situation was being handled. He was understanding but firmly told me to make sure it stayed off company property going forward. I couldn't blame him for that. That night, I made a decision. I called my ex directly for the first time since the breakup. Part of me hoped a direct conversation would finally get through to her where texts and emails hadn't. She answered on the first ring, voice suddenly bright and hopeful. "Oh my God, you called. I knew you'd come around eventually. I'm so glad you." Stop. I need you to listen very carefully. You showed up at my workplace today. You've sent me multiple emails, voicemails through your mother, and appeared at my apartment unannounced. This needs to stop immediately. The brightness drained from her voice. "I was just trying to talk to you. You won't respond to anything because I don't want to talk to you. We broke up. You ended things 6 months ago." She started crying. "I know, and I made a mistake. I was scared and I didn't handle it right, and I've regretted it every single day since. I just need help right now. I lost my job and my apartment and I'm staying on a friend's couch and I don't know what to do." That sounds really hard, genuinely, but it's not my problem to solve. "But you're the only person I can ask. Everyone else has already said no." There it was. I wasn't her first choice. I wasn't even her second or third. I was the last option after everyone else had already turned her down. You called my mental health emotional baggage and dumped me over text after I trusted you enough to be honest about struggling. That wasn't fear. That was cruelty. And now you're only reaching out because you need something from me. She was quiet for a few seconds. Then, "So you're really not going to help me? After 2 years together? After everything?" "After what, exactly? What did you do for me during those 2 years that obligates me to rescue you financially now?" She didn't have an answer. "Don't contact me again. Don't show up at my job. Don't send your family to call me. I mean it." I hung up before she could respond. 2 days later, I got a Venmo request from her for $3,000. The memo just said, "You know what this is for." I declined it and blocked her on Venmo too. Update 3. 3 weeks later. Final. This is probably my last update because honestly I'm exhausted by this whole situation and ready to stop thinking about it. After I blocked her on Venmo, she tried one more approach. She called my parents. My actual parents. She must have gotten their number from when we were dating. I had my mom saved in my phone, and she probably remembered the number. Or maybe she found them on social media. My mom answered because she didn't recognize the number. According to my mom, my ex introduced herself as my ex-girlfriend who's been trying to reach me because of an emergency. She told my mom that I was refusing to help her, even though she was in serious trouble, and asked if my mom could please talk to him and help him see reason. My mom, who is a genuinely wonderful person but takes no nonsense from anyone, said, "If my son doesn't want to talk to you, I'm sure he has good reasons for that. This isn't something I'm going to get involved in. Goodbye." And hung up. When my mom called to tell me about it, she asked what was really going on. I gave her the full story. The breakup text, the emotional baggage line, the 6 months of silence, the sudden reappearance when money became necessary, all of it. My mom was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "That poor girl made a terrible choice when she had you, and now she's living with the consequences. But that's not your cross to bear. You did the right thing by protecting yourself." That was the moment that helped me finally let go of the guilt I'd been carrying. Because honestly, A small part of me had felt bad about not helping. She was struggling, she was desperate, and I'm not a monster. I don't enjoy watching people suffer, even people who hurt me. But my mom was right. My ex made a choice. She chose to see my vulnerability as a burden and discard me because of it. The consequences of that choice weren't mine to fix. After the call to my parents, things actually went quiet. I don't know if she finally got the message, ran out of energy, or just moved on to trying to extract help from someone else. I stopped hearing from her directly. No more emails, no more voicemails, no more surprise appearances. But I did hear about her through the grapevine about a month later. The mutual friend, the wife who'd initially reached out on my ex's behalf, texted me unexpectedly. She apologized again for getting involved and said she'd only heard one side of the story initially. Then she mentioned something interesting. My ex had apparently been burning bridges all over the place recently. I wasn't the only person she'd asked for money. She'd reached out to multiple friends, family members, even some coworkers from her old job, asking for loans that everyone knew she'd never repay. She'd gotten into arguments with her own parents over financial support. Her friend group had largely distanced themselves from her because the requests had become so frequent and aggressive. The mutual friend said something that stuck with me. I think she's always been like this, but she hid it well when things were going good. You just saw it first. I didn't feel victorious hearing any of that. I just felt tired. And honestly, a little sad. Not for the relationship, that was dead and I didn't want it back, but for the person she'd apparently become. Or maybe always was underneath, and I just didn't see it clearly until she showed me herself. Last I heard, she moved back in with her parents out of state. Whether she figures her life out from there is genuinely not my business anymore. As for me, I'm still doing the work. Still seeing my therapist, still taking my meds, still managing the anxiety one day at a time. The difference now is that I'm doing it without shame. My ex tried to make me feel like my mental health was a flaw, something I should have hidden better, something that made me less worthy of love. But that's garbage. I'm allowed to struggle. I'm allowed to have hard days. And I'm allowed to expect that the people in my life will meet that with support instead of abandonment. I'm not dating anyone right now, not actively looking. Just taking some time to exist, see my friends, focus on work, focus on myself. When I'm ready, I'll put myself back out there. And when I do, I'm going to be upfront about who I am from the very beginning, including the anxiety. Not as a test, but because I refuse to hide parts of myself to make someone else comfortable. If they can't handle it, they can leave early. Better to know in month 1 than year 2. Thanks for reading all of this. Take care of yourselves out there.